Here we are yet again with another episode of Bridging Divides. As you can see, here we are at
like
Casey's Corner
like
with
a
Casey.
podcast within a podcast.
I know. It's like Inception.
Yeah. Where does it start? Where's it end?
Oh, no one knows. That's the beauty of this. No, hey, Casey, we're super excited to have you. Casey's a friend of mine from, again, BNI.
Yeah.
We had a lot of BNI guests on here. Casey it is your company,
Yeah.
Prosperity North Advisors.
Yes.
When did you start that?
Prosperity North started June 9th, 2020.
That's right. You were just telling me that.
Yeah.
Holy crap, dude. Right. COVID.
Yep. So I was laid off for COVID. I was working for a big insurance firm out of Phoenix, and they said, you, come on into the conference room. We got to talk to you. And I was like, oh, these kind of conversations are never
these are
good.
great.
And that was it. I went home and said, boy, what am I going to do? And I knew that I had a couple insurance licenses and a desire to not be homeless. So here we are.
Yeah, that tends to be a good motivator. Actually, I was just talking to my wife about this because I actually had a similar situation happen to me at the beginning of July of this year, where company I was working for I was presenting to schools.
Mm-hmm.
I was working for Chicanos per la Causa. I think I was telling you
Yeah,
about that.
yeah.
Great company, great organization. I love what they do, but the government funding got cut, and so there was really no way around
Wow.
making cuts.
Sure.
Because the funding that paid my paycheck was one of the ones that was gone.
Right.
But then it was like, well, I can either try to go get another job, or I can take the skills that I have.
Right.
I didn't have licenses or anything, but take the skills, take what I had, and let's move forward with this. And so I had my photo booth business that I started about a year ago, actually, a year and a month ago. Next Level Photo Booths. You ever need a photo booth? Let me know. And then also speaking, right? That's what I had been doing for them, and I'd wanted to do that on my own for a long time. And so I was like, okay, let's move forward with this. And so it's interesting how sometimes those crappy situations that you get yourself put in, it's like you can either, lay down and cry about it, or you can
Or you put your boots on and
put your
do
boots
it.
on and do it.
But did you ever have a plan B?
For if I lost the job,
Yeah.
no.
But after starting Bridging Divides, was there a plan B as far as like an entrepreneurial spirit of
I see.
like I could always go back and do this
XYZ. Yeah, what's funny is that I actually just applied at one of my old jobs that I quit a couple of years ago, and I didn't get the job.
Wow.
And it was so funny. Like, I'd been there for 5 years, and they were hiring, and I didn't get the job. And again, it was like, man, like that's interesting.
It's kind of crazy how like that's almost one of those like meant to be things.
Right.
That would, I mean, I've had a lot of tough lessons, but like that pushing forward of like maybe this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And then when it starts
100%.
working, and I apologize, but like when it starts working, like
don't apologize. Okay.
I've had moments where I've looked at like my wife or even somebody I'm working with and just be like, I can't believe this is working. Like it's like this is a real thing. It has it's become its own entity. It's taken off. And has it been easy? No, not at all. But and there's still times where I sit back and I'm like, either this didn't go right or that didn't go right. But personally, I never had a plan B. Like this was it. And if this didn't work, it was like, I guess I'll start selling spicy hot dogs on the corner or something.
Completos.
Maybe be the elote guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is it. This is it.
No, it's interesting that you say that, because I've wanted to do Bridging Divides, even though I wasn't calling it at the time. I've wanted to do this for 6 years. It's been a long time coming. Big Bro Mentoring was what I started out as. Everybody needs a big brother, that whole kind of spiel. And I've got 3 older brothers, and so I mean that was
Are you the youngest?
I am the youngest of the boys. Yeah. Oh, dude, oh my gosh, man, they did so many ridiculous things to me. I don't know how many bugs they got me to eat, or
What's
you
the
know,
age gap from like the oldest to the youngest?
let's see. Well, I mean, I have some sisters in there as well. I've got 6 siblings, so
Oh
it was
my
it was a
gosh.
madhouse. 2 of them adopted, and then we had
Wow.
4 biological. But let's see, my sister, I think there's probably 10, 11 years, something like
Wow.
that between me and the oldest. So, oh yeah, dude. But they had a field day with me. You know, yeah, oh yeah.
I-
They convinced my favorite. I think now, not at the time. My favorite was they did something with the phones, and I was like 7 or 8 at the time, and they basically like called the downstairs while my parents were gone, and we picked up the other phone, and they convinced me that my parents were aliens. And so they did some like voice changing, whatever, something, and convinced me that they were gonna,
The calls coming from within the house.
yeah, eat my eyeballs and,
Wow.
crap like that.
So I have 3 younger brothers. I'm
Oh,
the oldest.
so you were the
I'm the
perpetrator.
opposite, yeah. So we're on opposite spectrums. So when you're like, oh, do maybe eat bugs? Good.
Good.
Maybe the
Toughen
man
up.
you are today.
You know, it's interesting. It was funny because my kid said this the other day. He's like, it must be nice. He's the oldest. He's like, it must be nice to have younger siblings, because he's like, then you get to learn everything not to do that the older ones did. And it was totally true.
Well-
I've said that exactly before.
But I've tried to give advice to my younger brothers. Like, listen, I've gone through this. I know exactly what's going to happen next, whether that's with a girl or a job or whatever.
Yeah.
And they don't want to hear it. And so maybe it's that they have to find out for themselves. I think that's a balance. You know, you got a litter of kids. I got a litter of kids.
Yeah, I know.
If way to help them not make a mistake, I'm going to do it. But at some point, they have to be able to make those same mistakes to learn from it as well. I had a situation like that with
100%.
my son this weekend,
Yeah.
where it was like he got into a confrontation at a jump place at a kid's birthday party
Yeah.
with an older kid, and ended up at the bottom of that pile. And it was like, what'd you learn? It's like, don't end up at the bottom of the pile. Yep,
Yeah.
that's one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's like, as a parent, you have to take a step back, or even as an older sibling, and let somebody make those mistakes. I've done that with clients. Let me
Yeah.
know how that goes for you. I'll be here.
But I think that approach, though, you can either be like, oh well, yeah, see how that works out for you, or you can be like, look, I'm just trying to give you the best advice possible. If you need to go figure it out on your own, and then come back to me, okay, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
But then we'll go forward there. From there, it's like you don't burn the bridge. It's really just a matter, especially with your kids, right? It's really just a matter of like, look, I love you, and no matter what, I will always love you. If you need to make this boneheaded mistake, then okay. Like, I
Yeah.
can't stop you from doing anything. It's like I can't make you do anything.
My mom used to call it, so like when we got into like driving age, and where we go out, like whether that was like to the football game in high school, or you go out after, like for some reason coffee shops were super popular when I was
Yeah.
in high school, so it was like, we're gonna go to the football game, and then after we're going to this coffee shop or that. And my mom used to say, and I say this to my kids now, don't have a stupid attack. And so maybe that's just like man, that's just the development of a conscience
Yeah.
of right versus wrong, and how to make that decision when it faces you. And I think that, I mean, now as a society, I don't know if I'd want to be a kid growing up right now. It's a lot different.
It really is, and it's interesting too. It's like, when you and I are growing up, the cell phone was invented in our time. We weren't born into a world that just had smartphones.
I was
everywhere.
the coolest guy that I knew because my dad let me borrow his pager, and I wore that thing on my hip, and he had like this
Oh, that's so
chain
funny.
that attached to the loop, and I was like, and it comes with a chain.
Yeah.
And woo!
Man, you're so cool. No,
Like, hold on, I gotta pull over and call someone.
that's so funny. That's so funny. It's interesting though, just kind of going back to what you're saying about having to go through mistakes and just kind of segueing or kind of looping back to what we were talking about before about the plan B, about kind of everything, is that my wife and I were just talking last night about how we didn't, I didn't get the job or whatever to,
Sure.
to kind of try to supplement the income. And I don't necessarily like need it yet, but I'm starting to get to that point where I'm like, ooh, I'm kind of nervous. Like, am I going to, is this going to be sustainable or, should I get something more steady? And she's like, maybe this is just what we need to have that kind of
Grit.
looming fear maybe, or like, if this doesn't work, then there's nothing, there's no safety net, right?
Mhm, parachute,
And
right.
I think that sometimes, and not that a safety net is bad. I don't know, maybe make the safety net way far down, because I've got money in like in my retirement
Sure,
and everything,
sure.
that like, if it really hit the fan, then we'd be okay. Got equity in my home, like, so like we're not in like a horrible position where I'm gonna be homeless, but it's like, the safety net is really far away, and so it's like, well, now is the time to make those kind of boneheaded decisions, right?
Hmm.
It's like something, as an entrepreneur, which you well know, there are certain things that you just have to learn as you go through them. There's no possible way of knowing, when you jump off the diving board, just exactly how much water is in there or how deep it goes.
It's kind of funny that you say that. So I worked for a startup at one point. It was a startup technology firm
Okay.
based in Ahwatukee, and they used to call it making water on the way down.
Interesting.
And
I like
the
that.
essential thought process behind it was you're going to jump off this cliff, but you're making water so that when you land, you're not splat.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
you can dive into water. Now,
Interesting.
it didn't really work out in that situation.
They didn't make enough water.
They didn't make enough water, and you got to have water to make water. But I think that was an important lesson at that time, and it's there's a lot of things that I think about, like not only plan B, like I don't have a plan B. I've got side hustles, I've got what ifs, but I don't have a plan B. Now, could I fall back on something? Sure, absolutely. Could I ever work for anybody again? I don't think so.
Yeah, it's interesting. It almost, even while I was like applying, I I felt like I was almost taking a step backwards. And so, and you guys let us know in the comments if you guys have had some of these situations where, you kind of set out off on your own and then you maybe start to backpedal, or if you didn't, how did you get through that? We want to know. But that's super, super, I think that it's a very valuable state of mind to be in,
Yeah,
though,
yeah.
is to not have that kind of readily available. Because what did Ron Swanson say? I guess he's like,
Ron Swanson said a lot of
I'll
things.
edit it, but it's like you can. He's like, don't half a two things, whole a one thing.
I mean, that's a
It's actually a very, very sound piece
Right,
of advice. It's
yeah.
like, if you try to do too many things at one time, then your attention, your energies, your spirit, your emotions are going to be split between all of those things, as opposed to picking the one, and you go okay, let's build that. And then maybe if you build it to a certain point, then maybe go off and then start another one, or one of those other cups that you're trying to
yeah.
fill.
I mean, it's like that old. I mean, Ron Swanson. I mean, it could be like Master of None.
Jack
like
of all trades,
Jack of all
master of
trades.
none.
Yeah. So uh, it's like if you're gonna stamp that widget out, be the best widget maker you can be.
Yeah.
I think along my journey, and maybe that plan B that I've never had to, pull that chute. Those valuable lessons, whether they've been financial lessons, whether they've been um, human interactions,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like, I can't do that again. I mean,
Yeah.
I've gained huge clients that people would kill for, and I've lost clients that hurt when they
Yeah.
lost. And those
Yeah.
and at this level, especially if you're a soul guy, those you can take those personally. But what I've really relied on and really lately have started to bring into, I think, my philosophy and my journey, so to speak, is manifestation. And like, how can I manifest this? And how do I see this? And then how is it being delivered to me? Because it may not. I'm a Christian guy.
Yeah, same.
It's I think there's a saying that's like, every time you make a plan, God laughs.
Yeah.
And so what does that what does that sound like? And so it may not be delivered in how I am manifesting it, but it's going to be delivered in some way,
Yeah.
or it's not.
I think that it really comes down to, it's like every time you make a plan, God laughs, but at the same time, it's like he can't steer a parked car.
Sure.
So at least make a plan and take steps forward, because even if you have to do a 180, you've at least now gone so far from the reference point where you can go, oh, actually, I need to be going that way.
Yeah.
Or he can just veer it this way or that way. I mean, that's honestly, that's really how I work in a lot of ways, just because I'm so ADD that I have shiny object syndrome.
Sure.
Where I go this way, then I go that way, then I go
Definitely
this
squirrel.
way. But if I can at least make it go forward in a forward direction, then that's fine. You don't have to have it all planned out.
Even in a scenario, well, one of my favorite guys, actor, and I think entrepreneurial spirit, would have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, in the sense of, like,
He's got some awesome stories.
he does, and I started to watch his thing on Netflix, and I haven't finished it yet. I need to be in the right mindset for it, and I just picked up his book, and I started on
It
that.
just came out, didn't it?
Yeah, he talks about vision and setting that all up. But he's got a speech from probably 10 plus years ago. And it's like climbing the ladder of success. You can't climb that ladder if your hands are in your pockets. And so that means you've got to just, sometimes you've got to just suck it up and move forward.
Yeah.
I've worked on several projects. I've built boats, I've built cars.
Dang.
And throughout those processes, for me, it's always been, nobody cares about this. Nobody cares if this boat gets built or if this car gets built. I'm not doing it for anyone else. I'm doing it for me.
They're going to move on with their lives. Like
right.
The world marches.
But like, that's what kept me going, is nobody cares. So if I want this done, it has to be on me. Now, at some point, you need teamwork and all of that kind of stuff in different scenarios. But I think that overall, when it comes to my journey, how I've seen different things, not having a plan B and manifesting what's best for me and my family, I've seen that come full circle.
Yeah.
And absolutely shocked myself several times.
Like in what way? Like you accomplished more than you thought you could type thing?
Yes. Here's the easiest manifestation that I've ever done in my entire life. I think I even shared this story with you.
Yeah.
I like a lot of ice. I drink.
Oh yeah. I
drink probably a gallon of iced tea a day, and I've got a very specific way that I make it. It's got two black bags of tea and then 2 sweet bags, and that's the perfect balance for me to where I don't have to add anything to it. I'm not stimulated or anything. It's right in that wheelhouse, right? And I'll drink probably a gallon of it a day. It requires a lot of ice. I like ice. My refrigerator, especially at home, It has an ice maker. Does not keep up with my ice making
Your
needs.
consumptions.
Yeah, unless I want to go and buy a bag
Yeah.
at the store, and that's gonna, it's gonna take me an hour.
You get one of those
In and out.
one of those ice makers like QT or something.
So, I looked at my wife and said, "Hey, babe, what is my ice making budget?" And she said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "I want to get an ice maker. What's my ice maker budget?" And she said, 0. And I looked at her and I said, "Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go on Craigslist. I'm going to find a broken ice machine. I'm going to take a class down at the community college, learn how to fix that ice maker, and as soon as it makes its first batch of ice, I'm going to fill up a glass of ice and water and I'm going to throw it in your face." And then the next day her dad called and said, "My neighbor's moving. Her husband died. He's got an ice maker in the garage. Do you want to come and get it?" And I said, "Hold on to it. I'll be down there this weekend." And so now I have an ice maker sitting in my
Like,
laundry
suck
room.
on that, babe. That's fascinating to know how that can happen. Where it's like you lay out the plan, like you fully intend to take the steps forward, and a lot of times it's not like instantaneous, right? But like as you take action, those opportunities open up, right? Like
There's also
it's interesting how that works.
There's also a good and a bad side to it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
explain that. How do you mean?
Well, I'm a positive, right? Now I have an ice maker that's consistently making ice, and it's delicious, and I throw it in my iced tea, and I love it, right?
Yeah.
But if I said, "Boy, this ice maker probably makes poison ice cubes," and there's a bad side to everything.
Oh, I
It's
see.
kind of like you're driving. I'm from Southern California, so traffic was just a way of life.
Oh, geez.
And if somebody said, "Oh, wow, traffic's great right now," guess what was going to happen? You were going to hit a wall of traffic. And so
It's like, why'd you put that in the universe?
that's the universe. The universe will always have two sides. You're always going to have that positive, and then you're always going to have that negative. It's that, it's that yin and yang, so to speak. It could have very easily turned out that ice maker never developed, and I'm drinking warm tea, and I'm bitter about that.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring up yin and yang. I'm going to go off on a tangent here, which is nothing new. You guys know. But what I love about that is that there's the white with a little bit of black in the middle, or in the center of it, whatever. And then you've got the black that has a little bit of white in the middle of it. And what's awesome about that is that no matter what situation you're in, if nothing is all bad, right? So it's not like, oh, my life is over, something bad happens, and there's always going to be something that you can pull from it that can be a positive. And then on the positive side, I'm a very big positivity guy, which again, you guys know we talk about that all the time, and I'll mention our positivity prize fighter moment coming up here in a minute. But in any of those good situations, not that you need to always be like, well, when's the shoe gonna drop? But you do need to have that mentality of, okay, things are amazing. What could go wrong so I can prepare for it, right? It's like you always have to realize that nothing is ever fully like the end of the world, and things aren't going to be crazy, amazing, blissful all the time, And I think that's very important to understand that balance.
I've had those moments though where I've lived in the negative.
Yeah.
Right? Whether I was like a W-2'd employee where it was like, well, this isn't going to work out just because like it's too good to be true or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas now the mindset of everything happens for a reason. There's a lesson in everything. How can I apply this? What does this look like for future use? I mean, I deal with that. Gosh, in the insurance business, probably on a daily basis. I mean, some of the stuff that I hear, that I talk about, that I have conversations with, where people want to insure this or that, or is this even feasible? I mean, it would blow your mind.
Yeah.
But I think if you, it may not always develop how you want it to, or how you maybe envision it. But if you can always see that, yes, this did happen, but more importantly, here's what I learned and here's what I can apply for the next time. I think that's probably one of the biggest lessons.
Honestly, I don't think that there's really any mistake that is truly a bad thing so long as you learn from it.
Absolutely.
Then it can at least serve some sort of purpose, either for me, for my kids,
Yeah.
for whatever it is. I truly 100% believe that. Something that you said reminded me of a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And crap, I can't remember the author's name. I know I've mentioned it to you guys before, but just an absolutely amazing book where the author, she talks about how you can feel the fear of having something not work, or you can feel the fear, as you're going along the road, saying, "Oh, is this going to work?" But you're still moving and you're taking the steps forward. She's like, no matter what, fear in life is inevitable.
Sure.
You just need to choose what kind of fear do you want. And so that's why she says, feel the fear and do it anyway.
What I mean,
And I love that principle.
yeah. And it's, I mean, not to throw like another cliche at you or anything like that, but the
We like them.
um
Go
the
ahead.
being fearless, I would consider myself fearless.
Yeah.
Right. And that doesn't mean that like I'm not scared. I'm scared every day. I'm scared to pick up the phone, to make a cold call. I look around at society and I fear, what is the future of my children, those types of things. But like, and I fear failure, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so being fearless doesn't mean that you're not afraid. It means you're absolutely afraid. You're just going to continue to push forward.
Yeah.
And I think that probably been one of my biggest secrets of how it's a scary thing. Things are expensive. We live in a cancel world.
Yeah.
You make one mistake and you can kiss it all goodbye.
Yeah.
I mean, besides never putting yourself in a situation like that, how can you best set yourself up for success? And I think that's really what it comes down to, is just jump, go and make that water on the way down.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fantastic. Yeah, and such an amazing, important principle. Lewis Howes. Do you know Lewis Howes?
No, I don't.
Fantastic. You check him out. Check out his channel. He's absolutely amazing. Has really inspired me in a lot of ways. He wrote a book called The School of Greatness. And in that, he talks about how there are 3 reasons why people are afraid to kind of take the step. There's fear of failure.
Yep.
There's fear of judgment, and then there's fear of success. When you succeed, there are people and things that are left behind.
Yep.
And people that will either be like, "Oh, well, you're just lucky," or, "Oh, you don't want to spend time with us anymore, huh?" Like, "Oh, whatever." Like, there's always going to be people or things that are always trying to hold you back and hold on to you, so that it's hard for you to break out of that. And it's a whole new world, so it can be scary to even want to get out of your comfort zone, the herd that you're currently in, the tribe. But you got to realize that your vibe always attracts your tribe. Right? And so if you have a new vibe, you're going to attract a new tribe around you, right? But like, have you ever experienced something like that? The fear of succeeding or not wanting to leave your
100%. In fact, you said it better than what I was trying to say before, and I didn't really know how to put it. But I think that fear of success is a real thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I was getting to, in the sense of like, oh my gosh, this is working. I can't believe this is working. But if you looked at the path that I'm either taken or plan to take, it's supposed to work, right? That's why we plan.
Yeah.
But is that scary? Yeah. Is that it because you got self-sabotage that comes in? You've got outside influences that may not have your best interest in mind. There's a lot of things that I won't share with some people because I don't want any of that negative influence to either creep in, and it's at no fault of their own. They may want all the best interest for you in the world, but there's that little cycle in their head where they're going to put that out there.
That's the world that they're in. And so it's like the aunt or the mother or mother-in-law or whoever. It's like, oh, you sure you don't want to just get a regular
In-laws
job?
are a perfect example. Example.
I've been very, very lucky. Mine are very, very supportive of what I do, and my parents as well. But no, yeah, it's the stereotypical.
And mine are as well. And I've had to my wife and I both have had to caution our sons on something that you're excited about. Somebody else may think that that's dumb.
Yeah.
Or they may think that that's not going to work. Even though it probably will, they have the opportunity to kick that piece of sand in your gears. And if that sand gets in that gear drive, that could be all she wrote.
Oh my gosh, dude, Elon Musk, sorry to cut you off, but Elon Musk, when he's talking to all of his heroes and saying, hey, I want to make a self-landing rocket. And they're like, that's ridiculous. That is impossible. And he's given an interview. I've seen the interview, and he actually is starting to get emotional. I didn't think that he had the capability of getting emotional. So he's like a robot sometimes, but it's like he's kind of getting emotional and being like, yeah, it hurt to have my heroes say that it was impossible. But what did he do? He went and he studied and he worked and he did everything that he possibly could to figure this out. Have a team. I mean, he's the first to admit that he can't do this by himself, right? But then he made it happen, right? And so his very heroes that were the experts, and rightly so, said that it couldn't work. They kicked that piece of sand in the gears. But you can't let that stop you from moving forward with it anyway.
If somebody's not laughing at your goals, they're not high enough.
Ooh, I like that a lot. I've never heard that before. I like that a lot.
I think I got that on a car commercial.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, the all new Kia Sentra.
or whatever.
But it's true, right? If I say, "Hey, I want to start this company, and then I'm gonna do this, and I'm going to build this company up to be a Fortune 50 company," and nobody laughs at me for that, I better aim a little higher. Better go top 10.
Interesting.
So, again, good, bad, or indifferent. It's what's going to work best for you in that situation. And I think that sharing those philosophies, as far as I don't know, I'm off on a tangent, but
no, go for
but
it.
when I make a goal, there's really nothing that can stop me at this point, except myself, in my mind. I feel like the world has shown me that time and time again. I used to race boats. I picked up a boat probably 10 years ago, and it was one of the only things that I got in my divorce. I made my ex-wife sign a cocktail napkin that says, "I won't take your boat." And it took me 6 years to build that thing. I drove it one time up at Lake Roosevelt, ripped it up and down the lake, put it on the trailer, and sold it.
Oh, gosh.
And the only reason that I continued to work on that is because everybody in that world told me that boat would never work. And I made it work.
I like that. That's awesome. It's almost, and you can use that as fuel, which, and honestly, I mean, sure, like we should want to succeed for ourselves and all the other stuff, because if it's solely to prove someone wrong, then it will ring very hollow at the end.
Well,
however,
yeah. I mean, 2 graves and revenge and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, I get that.
But it is very, very poignant, though, of a lesson that, it can fuel you when it's like, no, I want to prove them wrong, but more importantly, I want to prove that voice in my own head wrong, to prove to myself that I can do it. So as we land the plane here, I brought up the positivity prize fighter moment, which it's one of my favorite segments that we talk about, which because positivity to me is not having this sunshine and rainbows vision all the time, rose-colored glasses. I think that there exists such a thing as toxic positivity. Where it's like, no, where you're not realizing or like actually seeing everything clearly. Positivity to me is when life punches you in the face, knocks you on your butt. Are you going to get back up? Do you believe that it is worth it to get back up and keep going, keep fighting? Can you tell us a positivity prize fighter moment in your life where you got knocked down, but you got back up and you kept fighting?
Oh man, let's see. I can tell you a course of a time period. How's that?
Yeah, go for it.
I was working for an international tax company. I was flying back and forth from Amsterdam. For all intents and purposes, it was a great job. Should I have ever left it? Meh. But I wasn't fulfilled. I felt like I was a customer service rep with an American Express card, and I felt like there was bigger and better things on the horizon. Now enter a startup company who flashes short-term cash at you, making water on the way down.
Yeah.
Mistake one. Then another startup, mistake two. And so over the course of, let's say, a 3-year time period, probably fired at least 4 or 5 times.
Oh my gosh. This wasn't getting punched one time. You just kept kicking with you while you're down.
I was not listening to the universe that said you can do this better, faster, stronger than anybody else that you know. I was scared of that success. And June 9th, 2020, when I came home, was COVID a factor? Yeah, absolutely. Can I control worldwide pandemics? No, I can't.
Great time to start a business.
But if you have no other options and no other resources because your resume looks like crap, because you've been through the ringer, because you're down and out, because this is it, and that's all you've got, then that will show you exactly who you are and what you are in that moment. And it could have very easily gone one of two ways, of another disaster and then another disaster and continuing. It's kind of like if you roll down a hill, it's like you're falling and then you hit your head and then you hit your head again and then you hit your head again. And at some point you've got to stop that and say, I just need to stop hitting my head because it will feel better when I'm not hitting my head.
Tuck and roll, baby.
And so that tuck and roll became, for me, a no option of, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to succeed, it's going to be on my own terms. I'm not going to do it for anybody else. I have to do this for me. I have to do this for my family because I'm out of options.
Yeah.
And so that was, I picked myself up. I wrote a business plan, and one night I started Casey's Corner in 2020. That was started because I knew how to sell insurance, but I didn't know how to market myself and market.
Interesting.
Representing people.
Yeah.
I have this world-class education. I've got a master's degree. I've worked for Fortune 50 companies, but I didn't know how to market myself. I didn't know how to market my company.
Interesting. And individually, like you knew how to kind of operate as that group, but not kind of on your own.
And so that, for me, there was no plan B. That's why I asked you about it. Yeah. I had no plan B because plan B fired me.
Interesting. And plan B didn't even work out for me. And it's interesting too, because it's like, like I said, I'm very ADD. And so it's like, I always have 50 different things. And so for me, that is a big thing. And so that's why I really appreciate, your advice and your stories and your experiences, because that is very appropriate for me, because that has been my challenge, is to pick one thing and and go into it.
Yeah.
And really, go full send on it. Not to say that you can't take your other experiences and things and kind of put them together. Photo booths, for example.
Sure.
Where I'd talk to you about how it's actually a really good introduction into a school that I would love to speak at, because I've already had an interaction with their students. We do a school dance or whatever, and they have a fun time, so they kind of recognize me. And I already have been talking to the administrators that pay the money, and so it's kind of it's interesting thing. But you do, for me, I have to pick one thing and go with it long enough to actually have enough data,
Yeah.
To actually see, yeah, this works, or no, it doesn't. I need to adjust something.
Yeah. I think a lot of it too comes down to a servant leadership type of mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Very much taken that approach as well.
100%.
Of all ships will rise with the tide. Supporting others, supporting small businesses, supporting pretty much anybody wherever they're at in their journey.
Yeah.
As long as it's a justified and I mean dignified, whatever. Whatever
no,
that
like
means.
unethical.
Right.
You're not going to be doing anything like that.
But showing that support for others, even if it's not going to make me any money, or if it's a waste of my time, there's always that give back element.
Yeah.
Because that's what I would want someone to do for me.
Yeah. I don't know if there could ever be a waste of time if it came to helping somebody else complete their bridge. If using our vernacular here on the show, is that is an essential component. Not just like, oh, it's nice, but I would say it's an essential component to succeeding, is to help other people complete their bridge. Even if you don't see how it can come back to you, bridges are built from two sides. So as soon as it's built, they go both ways.
Mm-hmm.
You give them what they need, and something will come back to you. It's an investment into somebody where you never know what that relationship, what that faith that you placed in them will do for you going forward. Whether it's a testimonial, whether it's vouching, whether it's a referral, whether it's another business opportunity in the future. Like, if you give unreservedly without expectation of it coming back, it is so much more valuable than when you're just looking out for yourself.
Yep. Some of my best referral partners have either been featured on Casey's Corner. I've propped them up on social media. But you and I meeting in BNI and just that whole philosophy of the giver's gain. It's something that I fully believe in that here's what they don't tell you about a servant leadership mentality.
Yeah.
Or even a giver's gain mentality, that it can be exhausting.
Yeah.
And your cup may not be filled up right away. Will it be filled up at some point? Yes, absolutely. I fully believe that it will be filled up. But there's often times where you are left dry.
Yeah.
And I've had that dry feeling. And that's a real like pity party place to be, so to speak, if you don't understand what that process is.
Yeah.
But I've had stuff come along from 3 years ago where I don't even remember the interaction, but now all of a sudden it's come back around.
Yeah.
And it's that full circle mentality.
Yeah.
And you just log it.
Yeah.
I log it in my head and either use it for later on down the road. I may never use some stuff.
Yeah, you may never see it, but again, it's just, you have to have faith in that process, in that principle, that it will come back somehow, some way, But no, Casey, thank you so much for being on, man. Like,
awesome.
It seriously has been super awesome. I hope that you guys have gotten a lot out of this. If you have, please hit the like button, share it, subscribe, all that good stuff. It definitely helps us promote this message of people working together, of us all succeeding together. When one of us succeeds, we all succeed, right? And I just love you guys to death, and been super excited to bring you guys another episode. And remember, just keep going. I know that it can be hard. I know that it can be discouraging, but you have to just push through it and know that eventually that will work out. If you keep setting plans and you keep working towards them, you will get to the finish line. I promise. We promise you
100%.
that you will get there. Love you guys. We'll see you on the next one.